I personally really, really love 3, Brachio Bombers, and Max leans towards
And I
4.
personally am very intelligent and, um, hey everybody, I'm Captain Max Fay.
And I'm First Mate Anthony Weber,
Welcome to our Dark Side of the Moon podcast.
a weekly podcast where we discuss everything One Piece TCG.
This week, we are discussing the limited deck battle format.
We will start by going over some of the lists that won the previous events,
Then, we will go over our personal lists for the format.
as well as potential alternate card options for different playstyles and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. All right, let's throw the first topping list on the screen. This is Semper's list. He won the first European deck battles hosted by Raid and Trade on October 29th, 2022. And for
Yep.
those of you who are only listening and not watching, I'll read his deck aloud.
Really
So,
quickly though,
oh, yep.
sorry, I don't
Go
mean
ahead.
to cut you
No, go
off.
ahead.
Uh, a really big shout out to Orange Samurai D, or is it Orange and
Yes.
Samurai? Yes. So
Orange
he
Samurai
is the
D.
one. Yeah, Orange Samurai D. He is the one who posted all of these lists on his Facebook. He also has exclusive interviews on his Facebook page with all of these winners. So you'll see his logo in the picture and everything too. That's where we got it. And really big shout out to him. He's killing it, and he is really fun to talk to. He was also a guest on our first podcast, episode 1 of Dark Side of the Moon. So you should definitely also check that out if you want to know more about him.
Absolutely. And you'll see his logo is on all of these images because we got the deck list straight from him.
Hmm.
So, without further ado, let's get into Semper's Crocodile list. So, obviously, we got the Croc leader. For the deck,
Yep.
we've got 4 Trafficker Law, 3 Jinbei, 4 Boa Hancock, 4 Edward Weevil, 4 Sentomaru, 4 Pacifista, 4 Marshall D. Teach, 4 Gecko Moria, 4 Drakiel Mihawk, 2 Crocodile. This is the 5-drop 6K Crocodile from the starter deck. 4 Doflamingo, 4 Love Beam, 2 Thrust Pad Cannon, and 3 Sables.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things to talk about with this list, and I think it's a very interesting take on Blue Croc, because traditionally in what I usually see and what we usually have for our list, um, the there's the option in your head a lot of times thinking about, do I run Thrust Pad Cannon or do I run the 5-drop blocker Crocodile? And he decided to run both of them,
Try and
and
find
he
space for
took
both, yeah.
yeah, he found space for both of them by taking out one 2-drop 4K Jinbei and one Sables. Um, so I think that's super interesting. Um, and I think Thrust Pad is really, really a card that a lot of people don't tend to run, or they like love running it. So, what are your
It's
thoughts on
very
that?
mixed views on it, yeah. Well, personally, I don't like
Yeah,
to run Thrust Pad Cannon, and I'll tell you why. It has some nifty uses, and we'll talk about them in a second. The biggest thing about Thrust Pad Cannon for me is that it is basically dead. Like, I have so much trouble using it in
hmm
my purple matchup. And the cards he cut, now Sables also isn't necessarily great into the purple matchup, but it's still pretty good. And Jinbei is amazing into the purple matchup. It's like that early aggression really is important when you're playing against Kaido. So I struggle a little bit with this decision because to me, purple is my hardest matchup, and Thrust Pad Cannon is the worst card in this entire deck into purple, other than maybe Teach, is the only other argument I could hear.
yeah. I also think in terms of mirror match, I think I think Jinbei as the 2-drop 4K, of course, is such a good card into the mirror match because it gives you the opportunity to be really aggressive early game. And in my testing and what I usually see is a lot of times blue players like to be aggressive in the blue mirror match to get that slight edge. And a lot of people start to make mistakes when your opponent is so aggressive early like that.
It
And
can
I
be
think
hard to deal with.
yeah, it's really hard to deal with. So I think having that one less Jinbei makes it so it's harder to pull off that aggression for mirror, which is a little unfortunate, but I mean, he finds success anyway. So again, definitely congratulations to him.
Well, another
He
big thing to
killed
bring
it.
up about
So
it is we can talk about how Thrust Pad Cannon's bad into purple. However, if let's say he feels he really wants to run Thrust Pad Cannon, right? Like he really likes the card because it's not bad into mirror, it's good into green, it's good into red. It's really
oh yeah,
purple that it struggles with. Normally the reason that we're so adamant about anti-thrust pad cannon is the card that you're cutting is the 5-drop 6K Crocodile. And that card is
yes,
also good into purple because it can't get kinged away. So that serves a lot of situations where you're playing that crocodile and it's just going to live, and it makes your opponent, the purple player, puts them in an awkward situation where they have to either Brachio Bomber or Kaido it. Well, Kaido's a 9-drop, it's not always available, and we see lists that don't run Brachio Bomber or run less Brachio Bomber. And even if they Brachio Bomber it, it means that they're not kinging that turn, right? They're not getting a 7k body.
Yeah.
So the choice to cut a Sables and a Jinbei, even though I really like Jinbei into purple, there's definitely an argument for it because he gets to keep these crocodiles, which the whole reason I'm running this crocodile is the purple matchup. So
Of course.
I can understand the decision to want to run both. To me personally, I don't feel like thrust pad cannon's all that necessary. But if you're really hell bent on running it, I'm happier to see this cut than I would be to see him cut the 5-drop crocodile like so many other people do.
Yeah, I also if we're talking about thrust pad cannon, we can't not talk about one of the niftiest combos with it, where you decide to use your one drop blocker law and you block an attack and you thrust pad back your law back to your hand, and that means it's kind of quote unquote an infinite blocker. Not really, of
Or a
course.
reusable blocker.
It's a reusable blocker. Yeah, it's a more accurate statement. Um, but it's very nifty combo, and he has access to it with this thrust pad cannon too, which is really, really sweet. And of course, being able to balance your opponent's cards, their 3 costs or less against red is really amazing. Against green, it can be potentially really good. I mean,
Bouncing in a
the card,
Rouge is really
yeah.
sweet, but even
Oh, yeah.
better, one of the best uses for thrust pad cannons I've ever done is if someone's attacking with an Arouge with 1 Dawn on it, and you use thrust pad cannon and bounce something that isn't the Arouge, like say a blocker, then the
Oh, yeah.
Arouge gets small, the attack doesn't go through, and the Arouge is easier to swing into on the crackback.
Oh, yeah. That like there's so many applications for thrust pad to be really, really good. I just think, in terms of space, like there's other cards I'd rather be running over it.
That's
I,
exactly it. It's not necessarily that Thrust Pad's a terrible card. It has a lot of really cool uses. It's just I don't feel like I want it more than I want Jinbei or Sables. Having said that though, congrats to Semper. He clearly knows what he's doing piloting the list in this manner.
oh yeah, he did phenomenal.
And I hope he enjoys that that sweet, sweet Luffy promo.
Such a nice prize.
It really
Another thing to
is.
quickly mention before we move on to the next list
Yeah,
is I
sure.
really like that he's running because I've been seeing some lists, and I know Max, you were talking to me about this, was 3 Doflamingos. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
The
I'm
decision to
I
run
really
4
like.
Doflamingo is essential in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Doflamingo as a 4 of is so important, especially in the purple matchup. Not even necessarily because the bounce effect, which is amazing. It's a really good ability into purple because you can bounce their kings
Mhm.
and you can bounce their like cards that they really, really need.
Bouncing
Um,
Queen is not necessarily bad. I've
yeah,
done it
it's not
before.
necessarily bad. Yeah, yeah, it's not the most optimal thing in the world, but
It's
man,
you need to know when you're gonna do it. You bounce queen
yeah,
when they are not gonna play it next turn, and then it's
yeah.
just a card in hand.
But I think my big appeal for Doflamingo in my head and why you should run it at 4 for those listening at home is it's a 7k body or 7k character card. So that card cannot be physically KO'd by anything in the limited deck format.
Yeah, the
There's
fact that
nothing
it
that can
is
KO it.
7k means it dodges Jet Pistol, and the fact that it's a 7-drop means it dodges all of the purple removal. So,
Yeah, which is
your opponent's
huge.
options are to bounce it if you're in a blue mirror, or rest it if they're playing green and really want to straw sword down a Doflamingo, I guess, in theory. But the fact that it's avoiding the removal is really the big thing. And when I hear advocates for running it at 3, people come to me and they're like, Max, I why are you running for Doflamingo? I draw into 3 of it and I want to die. And I what do I do if I draw all my Doflamingo? And the answer is always the same. You turn after turn, play 3 Doflamingos in a row.
Yep.
It can be you might think you might be looking at your hand and go, but I could go Sentomaru into Pacifista and then play down like a Law. And I say, well, or you could play a Doflamingo. And truly the thing about it is a 7k body that your opponent cannot remove via a card effect in the format is more important than anything else. And it gives you tempo by bouncing a card, right? So this and they don't have counter stats. So you got to get them on board sooner. It can lead to you taking some early damage, maybe making some less than optimal plays in the sense of the micro transactions, like in the terms of right now, it's going to feel kind of bad. But in the macro transactions, in the long run, stacking those Doflamingos on board is going to really net you that win. And you need to see Doflamingo, and that's why having it at 4 is so important.
Yeah, and another thing too is if we're talking about mirror match too, what normally does happen or can happen is you play Doflamingo, and then their next turn they play their Doflamingo, bounce their
Yes.
Doflamingo, and then it's over and over again, Doflamingo, Doflamingo,
And when
which
that
is annoying,
happens, if you have 3
but
Doflamingos, yes, that's terrible.
that's
That
annoying,
does
but
happen.
yeah.
You get stuck in these Doflamingo wars, and even worse, what happens is if you play your Doflamingo and you don't bounce their Doflamingo, let's say you're really risky, right? And you bounce their whatever, just because you wanna keep your 7K body. Then if they swing with their Doflamingo and play another Doflamingo, you just lost the whole game. So
Oh, yeah.
once the Doflamingo wars start happening, you're kind of locked into them overall, right? Like you don't have that many other choices other than maybe say Sable's a Doflamingo and then play Centomaro Pacifista and something along those lines, but you can't just let the Doflamingo sit there. But even still, in these situations where it's Doflamingo versus Doflamingo turn after turn, and you have a bunch of Doflamingo in hand, there are two things I want you to consider. One, your opponent is also locked into the 7 Dawn. They can have Doflamingo and Croc in their hand too, or Thrustpad Cannon, or things that aren't going to help them, right? Like that, it does
Yeah.
happen. They have just as much of a chance of it happening to them as it does to you. But also, that is Doflamingo wars aren't that uncommon, but a lot of things need to go wrong for you to have 3 Doflamingo cards in hand and a Doflamingo war to be happening on your turf. Like
Yeah.
the stars need to align for your opponent. And frankly, we're playing in a format where if the stars align for your opponent, there's not much you can do about it. There's definitely a heavy luck element in the limited deck battles format. So sometimes there's just nothing you can do. And those 1 out of 20 at worst games, like at the absolute worst, 1 out of 20 games, you're just going to need to sacrifice that 1 out of 20 games for consistency in seeing the best card in your deck.
Yep. I think it's more important. Again, you want to hit Doflamingos. It's not that you want to hit all your Doflamingos. It's just you need to hit at least one.
Yeah, hitting at least
Um,
if you don't hit a single Doflamingo, you're going to be in a much worse. It's not unwinnable, but it's a much
no,
worse stead than if you hit at least one, especially into
if they hit
Kaido.
theirs, even if you're playing against Mirror and they hit
Oh
theirs
yeah,
and you
and
hit
they hit a
yours,
Doflamingo and you don't. That can be really really rough.
that's really bad. Yeah.
But even worse is against Kaido because if
Yeah.
you don't hit Doflamingo, every single card in your deck is susceptible to Kaido except for that card. So if you never hit it, then tough, you know.
Yeah. It gets very, very wonky.
Anything else on this list before we move on to the next one, Anthony?
Uh, nope. Your little
Well,
rant there was
yeah,
it kind of covered all the bases.
yeah, I did. Well, blue is my main in this format, and I've put a lot of time into blue. I'm a big advocate for it, so I definitely have a lot to say. Speaking of which, our next list is also a blue list. This one
Yep.
was BioLizard, the winner of the Oceania Deck Limited Battles hosted by TAC Games,
Yep.
also on October 29th. So let's take a look. I will read the list aloud for those of you just listening, not watching. We've got Crocodile Leader, obviously, and then we have 4 Trafficker Law, 4 Jinbei, 4 Weevil, 4 Boa, 4 Sentomaru, 4 Pacifista, 4 Gecko Moria, 4 Edward D. Teach, what an idiot, 4 Marshall D. Teach, 4 Drakeul Mihawk, 2 of the 4-drop promo Crocodile, 4 of the 7-drop Doflamingo, 4 Love Love Beam, and 4 Sables.
Yeah, so I think this list is a little bit closer to, in terms of ratios of all these other cards, a little bit closer to what normally I think of Croc lists. But the big difference, of course, is the 2 of the promo Crocodile, uh, versus the starter deck
5-drop.
Crocodile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't love the 4-drop Crocodile. I'm
I
not a big
hate
fan
this
of it.
card. Truthfully.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
You can scroll back through our YouTube channel, which is what you're watching this on for sure, and you'll find a
Yeah.
video called "Why is this promo Croc so bad?" or something along those lines, and it's just an entire video
Just a
of a
rant.
5-minute video of me ranting about how much I hate this card.
Yeah, I really don't like this card. And the only argument I can see for it, the only one, and it's not even a good argument in my opinion, is it's a counter stat on
It
it.
has
And
a counter stat, yes.
like that's nice. You know what's better? Like it's so mediocre in my mind because you're either playing it and it just gets kinged away, or something happens to it, or whatever,
It's just as
or
susceptible to removal as every other card in your deck, basically.
yeah, or what you do play it, and then what is it? 2 Dawn to become blocker,
It's
or is it
1.
one
It's
Dawn?
only 1.
1 Dawn.
It's not
Yeah. Okay.
quite
So
that bad, but
yeah, can you
still.
imagine? No, so you put 1 Dawn onto it, so it becomes a blocker, and then it gets removed anyways, or you have to consistently add that 1 Dawn to be a blocker. I just
The
I'm
card
not
is a
familiar.
5 Dawn commitment to be a worse blocker than the 5 Dawn blocker.
Yeah, especially because that 5 Dom blocker or the 5, cost character, Crocodile, yes, it's a really nifty, sweet effect for having 1 Dawn onto it, but it's not like you
It
need
does
to
come
do
up
it
every
every
once in a
turn.
while. Oh, no,
It
you almost never use it.
you almost
Realistically,
never
it's
have to use it.
mostly just a 5 drop 6K blocker.
Yeah, whereas this one, you have to invest in that 1
Yeah,
Dawn
the
every
only
turn.
argument for this card is the counter stat. The deck, if we were to take a look at like set one decks really quickly, right? Because we're playing set two over here. Anthony and I have been
Yeah.
testing set two like crazy, so we're
Yep.
trying to have the same mentality. Now, granted, they're different formats, but if you're looking at a set one blue deck, it runs so many more dead cards. And like, yeah, it has 4 more 2K counters. Cool, you can say that all you want, but realistically, just the 2 extra cards of counter, it's very uncommon for that to be what loses you the game. But it's
Yeah.
super common in my experience playing blue for me to play a 5-drop Crocodile and it to be a thorn in a Kaido's side because they want to play king, and now it's awkward. Now it's, do I play a
Yeah.
7K body with no effect and then it gets Doflamingo to my hand and I hate my life? Or it's, do I let it sit there and not play king and try and get to my Kaido as soon as possible? Or and a 5K blocker is almost useless, right? Because if you block
Yeah.
with it when it's swinging at your leader, it's the same. You have to counter the exact same amount to keep the blocker alive.
Yeah, so essentially, the body being a 5K is like when you have a traditional 5K blocker, that blocker better have a really cool effect outside of being a blocker or something like
Yes.
that. Otherwise, why bother running that card at all?
And this one
Um,
requires a Dawn to even get the blocker and then does nothing else.
yeah,
So
yeah,
realistically, clear. I think it's very clear the only reason that BioLizard is running it is for the extra counter stat. He feels like he needs the extra defense.
yep.
It could be a meta choice. I mean, it's easy to think this is Oceania. This isn't. It's not exactly. It's not. It could be like if there's a lot of red in his meta, for example, the 2 extra the cards of 1K counter stat might really be what he feels like he needs, right?
Yeah, he could have been testing a lot into red and having a really difficult time, and then this card, that extra counter, be the thing that made him decide, okay, this is it. This is
Yeah.
what I need in my deck.
I personally feel like Blue already has a good time in a red, but who knows what his personal experience has led. And clearly,
Yeah.
he was able to work it out very well, and pilot it to winning the winner Luffy. And that's, hey, you can't
Yeah.
really fault
He
him.
can't speak with that math.
Yeah, I can't really argue his deck choices too hard if he won a 512 man event.
Yeah.
So congrats to him, and I definitely think your decisions are valid. Just not the direction I go.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think there's credence to this list. I think obviously it performs super well.
This list is
And
actually, you'll see it soon. This is exactly my list, except
yep,
for that one crocodile switch. So, I mean,
yep.
I can nitpick that one different choice as much as I want. But clearly, I think he's doing almost everything right because he
Yeah.
built almost my exact list as well, or vice versa. We have the same list minus this one card choice, and he won with it. So this one minor change, it's not such a. It's not like he's not running Doflamingo, right? It's not so dramatic that it warrants. Oh, I think this is terrible list.
Oh
No,
yeah, absolutely not.
this is completely fine.
Yeah, if you're gonna also, I think a big thing to talk about in terms of that too is this 2 card slot, this crocodile is like it's the easiest one to mess around with. Like this is your
Yes,
free slot.
exactly. That's the
Like this
flex spot where you
that's
can
the
put
flex
whatever
spot,
you want.
exactly. Yeah, that can be the 5 drop crocodile, it can be the 4 drop blocker crocodile, or the thrust pad. And
Honestly,
I
I've
don't
seen it
like
be buggy for green matches, which I don't
yeah.
like,
Oh
but
yeah, I don't love
I
that, but
understand it.
yeah, exactly. So that is the easiest flex spot of all blue, and I think it's like, oh no, he uses flex spot for the crocodile blocker isn't
It's
egregious.
like
Like
not,
it's
yeah, exactly. It's very, very minor.
yeah. So again, congratulations to him. He did phenomenal. I mean, he knows what he's doing, so I can't you can't
Yeah,
complain.
absolutely. All right, oh, this is the Jesse Spencer. He won the
Yep.
core TCG North America one, which was last week, or was that PPGs?
This last weekend I think was PPGs,
Okay,
and then
so
I think
2
the weekend
weekends ago, he
before
won the core
it was
TCG
that.
one.
Okay.
And it was with Kaido. So we're getting into the Kaido lists here. This list is very interesting. For those of you who are just listening, I will once again read the list aloud. So Kaido's the leader, of course. It runs 4 Black Maria, 4 Sheep's Head, 4 Jack, 4 Sasaki, 3 Who's Who, 3 X Drake, 4 Ulti, 4 Queen, 4 King, 4 Kaido, 4 Blast Breath, 4 All-Star Calamities, and 4 Onigashima. Now that All-Star Calamity, I feel like there's a lot to dive into this list, and I just
Yeah.
have to jump straight into All-Star Calamity. I have no choice. Like I'm
Yeah,
staring this card,
it's so big.
it's staring me in the face, the fact that he chooses to run this card.
It's crazy to me because it is the most untraditional pick for limited battles is to run this card in my opinion in the
Yeah,
Kaido list. It
truly.
is like
I've seen
literally out of
every
everything.
other card be run more frequently. People run Jin Rummy to answer green more
Yeah.
often than they run All-Star, right?
Yep, I agree. I think all I think that now the thing is I've talked to not him specifically. I don't think I ever talked to Spencer.
Yeah.
But like, again, also congratulations, which is bringing especially a different way for this list to be still really, really relevant, and he did really, really well. So, super congrats to him. I was talking to somebody about it, and I think they talked to Spencer or something like that. I don't remember. Um, or you can catch his interview. It might have been on there. I'm not entirely sure where this information was popped up, so I had no real credit to it, or if it's true. But the logic has to be, you're using the All Star Calamity to cantrip through your deck while ramping, so you can hit your 9 cost
Trying to
Kaido
guarantee
faster.
that 9-drop Kaido. Because 9-drop Kaido
Yeah,
is easily the best card in your deck that isn't like Onigashima, right?
yeah,
And the
yeah.
sooner you
It's
play
so
it
good.
and the more frequently you play it, the harder you're gonna win. So that's definitely the logic.
Yeah, it definitely is that, and that's what I was when I first saw. I was like, it has to be this, and then someone confirmed
I
for me.
still
And I was
struggle
like,
with it because a big thing about Kaido is if you're giving your opponent the early turns to just run rampant with you, right? Then that is like the longer the game goes as Kaido, the more likely you are to win. Kaido is kind of
yeah,
an inevitability where it will eventually just win. And you have to beat it before it does. And I know that sounds kind of just simple logic, but the point is just that the longer a game goes, the higher the chance that a Kaido player is going to be any other deck in the format, in my opinion. Um,
yeah, I
so
agree.
the big tricky thing here is like, if we were to take this list, right? Let's assume you go first, not second. Turn 1, you have no play, of course. Turn 2, you play Oni, of course. Turn 3, you play King, or do you play All Star? Does the All Star just sit in your hand, and how long does it clunk? And
Yeah,
if you're
it's
playing All
tricky.
Star in these situations to try and filter through your deck, it gives your opponent more of a chance to screw with you, right? So my choice in this All Star spot is Brachio Bomber, and I feel like that's
He
most
runs,
people's choices.
yeah, he runs 0 of, which is
Which is
insane to
that's
me.
wild to me. See, this is the list that I was talking about. If against this list, I'll gladly play 5-drop Crocodile. Right? What's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because this list doesn't even run any Brachio Bomber. Now their only answer to Crocodile is 9 cost Kaido,
yeah.
and that's it.
And All
Um,
Star, it has such a high potential of clunking, and while it brings you value, it doesn't do anything actually proactive. You're just ramping.
yes,
That's
yeah.
it, and that's
The only
that's really
thing
tricky for me with Kaido.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. But I gotta say, I love, 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 love the trigger. If you get this in life, oh my
Yes, that's
god, that's
amazing.
amazing.
I don't like
That's so
running
good.
cards because I'm
Yeah.
expecting to hit it in life. I want the
Oh no, no,
card
no,
to
no.
be good. I want to run the
That's
card and then its trigger to be
yeah,
a thank God this card has this trigger because it's so cool, you know?
yeah.
Like
That's
I would run Who's
this
Who without
trigger.
the trigger. I'd run Jet Pistol without the trigger, right? You know?
Me too. Yeah, the triggers by itself does not warrant its slot, but boy, do I love it.
Yeah.
Boy, you love to
Oh
see it.
yeah. I lost, as a matter of fact, um, I lost in the super pre-release to an All-Star Calamity trigger in life.
Oh, was that Eddie?
That was yeah, another member of the Moon Men. 2 games in a row, we were playing, and I was really happy, and I just needed to beat this guy, and then I was going to face Anthony. And I was playing blue, and Anthony was playing green, so I was really confident in it.
Yeah.
And game 1, he triggered a Who's Who that won him the game. And game 2, he triggered an All Star Calamities that won him the game, and I was like, motherfucker! Like it sucked so hard. So I definitely understand this card's trigger can be a game changer for you. It really is the difference. Um,
Yeah. But granted, you don't
it's
want
still
to play the
funky
card
though.
just because it's trigger. Yeah.
No, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
and in fact, it obviously doesn't have a counter stat. Obviously, it doesn't. It's not a counter event. You have to play it during your turn to do anything, and so now you're limiting yourself to
Mhm.
doing other stuff. I
Another
don't
thing to
necessarily hate
mention
this. I don't hate the Calamity,
Another thing worth
but
mentioning
I
with
don't love
Calamity,
it.
though, is when they went into this event, it was supposed to be best of 3, and
Yes,
then it
yes,
got
yes.
changed to best of 1, and I think in a best of 1 format, I like Calamity more because the backup ramp is more important. You know, you could almost look at this list and say, if in a best of 1 format, you play this and you choose to go second, and then you hope that turn 1 is either Sheepshead or Black Maria, and you hope to God turn 2 is Oni. But worst case scenario, it's Jack, and then or it could be All-Star, right? To get you to King on the following turn, or to get you to Queen into Kaido, that kind of thing. So I can understand, especially in a best of 1 concept. Now, granted, he didn't know it was best of 1, but it almost worked out for him, right? Where if you look at this list and you think, okay, he's choosing to go second so that he can get Sheepshead out, and then All Star makes a lot more sense. Because
Yeah,
All Star as a card choice makes a ton of sense if you're choosing, or I shouldn't say a ton, but it makes more sense if you're choosing to go second,
yeah,
to get that
and
ramp right away.
it gives you, like, I know if you miss your Oni, that hurts, but then you have Jack, now you have an alternative
Yeah.
backup without
The
you have to play
tricky
Jack.
thing about that, though, is if you go second, you don't need ramp to hit King, right?
That's true,
Because you
no.
already have 6. And if this card were Brachio Bomber and you go second, then your turn 3 can be Brachio Bomber without any ramp,
Also
which
ramps you.
also ramps you. So I definitely understand the choice. Um, to me, it's just Brachio Bomber. I love Brachio Bomber. It's one of my favorite cards in the format, honestly, or in purple. Like it's a
Yeah, and the
really
fact
sweet
that
card.
Brachio Bomber can also kill your opponent's kings, which is huge,
Yeah, in the mirror
without
match,
having, like,
Brachio is insanely powerful.
to use your 9-drop Kaido also, so now you can just go, "I kill your king." Okay,
Or
they do
your
something like
queen. Like what
or queen,
relevant
yeah.
cards to kill?
Yeah, there's so many targets in every single color where 6 and below is just hitting a really good target.
Yeah, the
Like,
only things in the entire format that Brachio Bomber does not hit is 7-drop Kid, 7-drop
yep,
Doflamingo, and 9-drop
yep,
Kaido. It hits every single other card in the game. It kills the Basil Hawkins that your king does not, and Basil
yep.
Hawkins is a powerhouse. It kills
Oh,
the
Bath Hawkins
queen.
hurts.
It kills the queen that your king does not. It kills the 5-drop Croc that your king does not. It kills the 5-drop Luffy that your king does not, right? So it's like I really feel like when your opponent, if your opponent is playing on curve like they should be, and they play this 5-drop that is like one of the best cards in their deck. Because like Basil Hawkins, 5-drop Luffy, Queen, these are some crazy strong cards to be considering. And your
Yeah.
deck is then going to follow up with an All-Star, you know?
Another,
It's just gonna do they're gonna do what they want for a turn, and that's really hard.
that's crazy. Another thing too to mention about this list specifically is I don't see any page 1
So that
at
was the
all.
next thing I wanted to touch on was the choice to run no page 1, and instead it's running X Drake. I actually
Yeah,
love this decision.
me too.
Page
Like,
1
I like a
is
lot.
you'll see page 1 in my list, but it's a tempting switch to just go bring it over to X Drake. Playing ulti into page 1 is kind of bait. It
Yep.
in this format because Kaido needs its 2K counter. You know, when you're in set 1, it's got a ton of 2K counters.
Yeah.
Here it's got ulti. And I'd almost rather just play page 1 and keep a 2K counter a decent amount of the time. Um so X Drake is a decent card in a lot of factions. Playing
Yeah.
it into mirror is good. The early aggro into mirror is good. So I really like the choice of X Drake over page 1.
Getting rid of, like, in the blue matchup, having that early aggression is really sweet. And another thing too is
Even ignoring aggression, blue is going to play early aggro into you. So if you get
yeah,
Sheepshead and or X Drake out early, or Jack or Sasuke or any of these early attackers, they can swing into blue's attackers, which makes their matchup much more awkward because they're trying to whittle you
yeah.
down fast.
Another thing I really kinda wanna briefly touch on is that he's running 4 Sasaki,
Oh
which I
yeah,
also really like.
Sasuke's a great card.
I see some lists, not all lists, run Sasaki at lesser amounts, so they can run more vanillas and stuff like that. I really like Sasaki at 4, just not even because it's so good, but against blue, I've seen it happen so often where blue is having that early aggression, playing down their Jinbeis, playing down their, Weevils, all that stuff, and they're hurting purple's resources, all that stuff that kinda happens, blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden, purple player plays, like, 2 Sasakis. And now do they answer Jinbeis, they answer their opponent's Weevils, and the blue player's hand is a little bit lower, but with purple, those Sasakis are drawing you a card, so now your resource management is just automatically better. Like, you
Right.
already have answers into a very aggressive matchup. And that the same can be said against red too, where if you're playing as red and they have all these vanillas and they're doing all this stuff,
They're playing
now you have
Sanjis. They're playing early aggro pieces.
yeah. Now the Sasaki is doing so much work because it is able to um answer those cards while not losing a card from your hand to play it.
Which
Like
Kaido
like
needs the hand so badly.
yeah, so not only I would like to see it more than once, like we were talking about Dofi, you run force, you can hit more than you can hit one or more times. I like hitting Sasaki multiple times in some matchups
Oh yeah.
because it's just so relevant in those matchups. And now saying that, just bouncing off of that, I'm kind of a little bit surprised he only runs 3 Who's Who.
I can understand the three Who's Who because Kaido has so much dead. It's really easy to draw cards
Yeah,
without
that's
counter
true.
stats.
That's
But to
true.
me, I'd really Who's Who is such a good card that I
Yeah,
really wish that this like one of those X Drakes was one Who's Who. Like that's my big thing here, where it's I
yeah.
really don't feel like three X Drake instead of four Who's Who is the way.
I think if yeah, I think it'd be the X-ray for me too, because I feel like the one counter, I don't think it's gonna be the thing that breaks you. I think that's a really easy flex. Whereas Who's Who can win games off of life getting hit with the trigger, like Max said in his game in the
hmm
Super Release.
Even ignoring getting hit off life, how many
Um,
times have you played a Who's Who to kill a blocker and
yeah,
with your
killing
opponent at one
blockers,
life and then crit
going for
away
game.
the Dawn you use anyway? You know.
Yeah. It's just it's Who's Who is such an easy way to go for game, end game, and it's crazy to me a lot. We talk about this all the time. I'll just jump a quick little spoiler into set one, where a lot of people in set one don't run Who's Who, and
They don't run
even
it at
now,
all. Yeah.
yeah, they don't run it at all, and I'm just like, it's crazy to me. And now this is the format where you want to run Who's Who, and we're seeing people run it at three. I'm just like,
I really
I
think
don't
four
get it.
Who's Who is the way.
Yeah,
Having said all that, this was a really interesting list. And there's
yep, for
definitely
sure.
something to be said about, we could talk about how it's untraditional and all the card choices that we think are smarter, but there's something to be said about if you catch an opponent off guard, right? Like this was the first event. So if you're running a Kaido deck in the way that nobody else is running Kaido deck, your opponent needs to either adapt or die. They need to figure out how to beat your unique brand of Kaido because they are so accustomed, especially like 7 rounds in, right? They've played against 4 Kaido
Yep.
decks that are nothing like yours. And now they're making misplays that would have been completely correct into the other Kaido
Convention.
variants.
Yeah.
But yours is so very different and yet still effective that you get a surprise factor. And there's a ton of value in that.
Yeah, one of the biggest things in card games, not inside of One Piece, outside of One Piece too, where surprise factor is just puts so much work in for you.
Yeah.
Where if you have a good deck and it's a surprise factor, like this deck is a perfect example, you just do phenomenal. And this, I think honestly, there is something to say about having All Star Calamity draw you a card, where purple had besides Sasaki and I guess Queen, you're not really plusing or not, plus one either, but you're going through your deck even faster than your opponent's deck who are only have access to Queen and Sasaki. You're drawing even more than they are. So you have a higher chance of drawing to your Blast Breaths. You have a higher chance of drawing to your Knights of Kaidos. Pieces that they may not see, you now have a higher chance to see. So I really, really like that. And as another reason why you run it, because cantripping is just so good.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Granted, do I think it's better than Brachio Bomber? Of course not. But
But hey, it
do I?
worked. It
But it worked for
worked
him.
for him. And Jesse Spencer, congrats on that winner, Luffy. I'm not jealous. You're jealous. We're gonna move on. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna butcher these names, but we'll do our best. So the
Yeah.
fourth one is Koki, which is in Latin
Okay.
America. It's
Yeah.
COQUI. It's a deck limited battles that happened October 30th, and the winner was Yisus, Yisus, also playing Kaido. And thankfully, this beautiful deck is organized by Curve, so I can actually just read it in order instead of organizing it in my head. But for those of you that are just listening, not watching, let's read this deck off. It's got 4 Black Maria, 4 Who's Who, 2 Sheep's Head, 4 Sasaki, 4 Jack, 1 X Drake, 4 Ulti, 4 Page 1, 4 Queen, 4 Kaido, 4 King, 4 Blast Breath, 3 Brachio Bomber, and 4
Yep.
Onigashima. Yes. So this, in my opinion, if you were to take the 1 X Drake, right, and make it that 4th Brachio Bomber, and even if you don't do that either way, it doesn't matter. This is the closest we've gotten to the most standard possible Kaido list. Like when you think Kaido, this is
It's
the
pretty close.
shell that you're starting with.
Yeah, I think the only big thing too in my head is this. I mean, obviously the one-ups are very finicky.
Yeah, the
But I
1X Drake
also
is interesting.
it's very interesting. I would have liked that be a sheep's head, to
Yeah,
be
just a
honest.
third sheep's head would have been really sweet.
That then I would
I
actually
mean, I would
love
have liked it to
this
be a
more.
fourth Brachio Bomber personally, but you know, I'm with
Yeah,
the
and we'll talk about that later too in
yeah.
our own deck list. Where I personally really love 3 Brachio Bombers, and Max leans towards
And I
4.
personally am very intelligent and um so
Wow. Okay.
but anyway, no. So this list, it's almost sad. There's not a ton to say about this list. Congrats to Yeezus, but
Yeah.
he went and he went. Okay, I don't need to be innovative in my deck building. I just need to be talented in my playing. I
Yep.
want to take the most vanilla Kaido we possibly can and run with it, and just show off that I am doing what I am doing with the tools I'm given.
Yeah, yeah, and he did phenomenal. He got first
First
place.
place, yep.
He got first place. Congratulations to him. I mean, like this list is obviously like a lot of staples. Everything we talked about. It has the four Who's Who's. It has the four Sasukis. It has four Ulti.
It
Four
does
page
choose
one.
to run the
Four attack.
four-page one, so for the ulti-page one combo, so I'd be curious to see how that worked out for him. But,
Yeah, me too. But I mean, also there's something to be
ulti-page
said.
one is a very strong combo. Like,
Yeah,
it's not that it's bad to be running. It's
no,
just
of
that,
course not.
man, do I feel like I feel like ulti-page one, every time I see it or play it, I almost never feel good that I've done it. It's like, this is the best I have
Yeah,
available to me, and that's
it's like
making me sad.
it's your backup option that
Yeah,
just makes you want to
exactly.
cry. Yeah, but there is something to be said, in my opinion, where not even playing page one early, but even like mid to late game, where you go a turn where you go, I play 2 page ones. Now it's
Oh,
like not even,
yeah. No, for just the state concept of a 4-drop 6K vanilla, 4-drop
yeah,
6K vanillas are amazing in this format.
yeah, and honestly, they're just good always. Like they're always gonna be pretty decent. Um,
I mean, they'll be fine.
yeah, they're not amazing
How many
anymore,
set
but
1 decks can you name that run a 4-drop 6K vanilla that isn't Pacifista specifically because
I
it
was gonna
gets
be
cheated
like,
into play?
I was gonna be like pacifista, got ya. But nah, yeah,
But the
not
only
that
reason they're
many.
playing Pacifista is
Yes,
because
I
it
know.
gets cheated into
I'm
play.
just
Like, you know.
saying I mean, people also still pay page one in set one because you can cheat it into play for
Yes,
ulti.
because you can the ones that are getting played, like you're playing 6K vanillas because they're getting cheated into play via effects.
Yeah, so they're still pretty
Oh,
good.
actually, there is also there are the red green Luffy decks that run 4-drop
Oh yeah,
6Ks
that's
so that
right.
you
That
can
was a
untap and
newer.
swing twice. That was a thing for a little while,
Yeah, it was a hot minute of that.
but
Someone let
anyway,
me know about it,
we'll
but
we don't need to get on a set one tangent.
yeah,
Um very congratulations to Yeezus. The one of X Drake is very interesting. I'm curious as to why it's not just another sheep's head. Sheep's head's so good into the mirror. Especially like, you go second playing a
yeah,
sheep's head really brings you into that game because going second against Kaido can be really rough as Kaido. But you clearly know what you're doing. So congratulations
yeah,
to you and good job on piloting Kaido to the best of your ability.
yeah. He did great,
Oh
and
yeah.
it shows. It's like it says a lot about somebody where like yeah, my deck is a staple list, whatever. So and everyone's running the same list, and you come out on top anyways.
Yeah, it definitely
And
does.
yeah, so
You had to
congratulations.
beat all those other people doing the same thing as you. So
Yeah,
all right. So now we're going to go over our 4 lists. Now, full disclosure, we did make these lists together, but they are my final versions. So there are a few differences, and we'll talk about them whenever they come up between a
yeah,
choice that I make and a choice Anthony makes. But we're also going to talk about all of the different card options you could make in general. So it doesn't really change much. It's just we're going to talk about your other card options. So we're going to go in order. We're going to start with Luffy, the
yep.
underrepresented underdog of limited deck battles that is not going to win it, so don't even worry about it. But we'll go over the list anyway. And that is Luffy leader, 4 Chopper, 4 Nami, 4 Brook, 4 Sanji, 4 Vivi, 4 Robin, 4 Zoro, 4 Frankie, 4 Luffy, and 4 Luffy, both promo and 5-drop.
Yep.
4 guard point, 2 Diablo Jambe, and 4 jet pistol. Now the immediate thing I know, Ant, you're gonna jump right in. You choose to run 2 Zoro and 2 Duck, right?
Yeah, I run 2 Karoo, and honestly, it's not something I'm gonna die on the hill for at all.
It's hard to
Um,
argue with the decision to play the Duck, though. I mean, you're running like it's the
yeah,
Duck.
Ducks of course, it's best card ever, right?
Like, it's the
So
Duck.
he's a duck. But my thing with running the duck is sometimes you want to have that extra defense, that extra 1K counter does come in handy. You have a lot of dead in your deck. Um, in the form of Sanji, Zoro, both Luffy's are pretty much no counter stat. So I like having the extra defense, and personally, I see Zoro die like every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Um, it almost never stays on board, and so I'd rather be playing other stuff also 9 times out of 10 because yeah, the Zoro's nice, but why do that when I can play my Luffy's? You know what I mean? Or like if
I
I need to
think
respond to a jet
the
pistol.
big thing about Zoro is if you go first and you see Zoro on curve, that's where it really shines. Like if you're into
Yeah,
blue and you see
that's
Zoro on
awesome.
curve, sure, they teach it, right? But if you're
Yep.
into purple and you're first and you play a Zoro on turn 2, guess what their turn 2 is? It's not who's
Yeah.
who. It's I mean,
Yeah.
unless they whiffed Oni, which fine, then I'll take the L. It's Onigashima. And then
Yeah.
you've got a 7K body that can swing, right? And you can play a 5-drop Luffy on top of it. And now all of a sudden you're doing these crazy big plays on your opponent, and
Yep.
they just kind of have to sit there and take it to the face. You know, they don't have any
Yeah,
other choices.
and Zoro is a phenomenal card. Don't get it
Oh
twisted,
yeah.
guys.
And
Zoro's
into
a great
green,
card.
Zoro is really good. The big thing about Zoro versus Karoo, the biggest argument is blue, where
Yeah.
the worst matchup for you as a red player, way worse than Kaido, is Crocodile. So
Oh
and
yeah.
Zoro's like basically dead into that deck. They're gonna bounce it every fucking time you play it, unless
Oh
you're
yeah.
really lucky, right? And then it's
Like
dead in
it's
hand, and you want
huge.
to
Yeah.
die.
No.
Like that sucks.
It's and then they can draw -4 late game, bounce it back to your hand. Like it becomes a big pain in the ass. Where at that point, I'd rather have the counter stat.
Yes.
Also, you have what I kind of like about Karoo, which again, this really doesn't come up that often. But I like having your turn one. I play Karoo. Now it's like, okay, do you're playing your Bonnies? Like, good luck. You're not gonna activate the Bonnie effect turn one.
See, I just do that
Um,
with Nami. I just swing Nami
yeah.
into fucking Bonnie. I
My
don't give a
another
I
big
don't
thing
care.
too, is well, how I play my Luffy deck is I really, really love hit like I think I almost necessarily need it. Like 9 times out of 10, I really like having Nami. Having
Oh
Nami
yeah.
turn
Nami's
one,
a really big deal.
Nami's huge in the red deck because a lot of times it turns your all of your plays that would have happened a turn later and now it's turned on. So for example, you have this promo Luffy, the 6 drop 7K.
If you're
Um,
only at 6 Dawn, now
if you're
you
only at
like
6
yeah,
on,
now you can use it.
now you can play it a turn earlier, whereas if you only had Luffy leader, you have to play it on turn 7 because it needs 2 Dawn to go off.
Or at
Same
7
thing with
Dawn.
or 7 Dawn, yeah. So you same thing with Sanji. You can play it for 2 and then activate the Nami era
Well, I
leader
mean that
to
yes, but that will
turn.
never happen on a turn
No,
earlier because of it, you know what I
no, it,
mean?
won't- it that,
But it
but
is
that's not
still
my point.
helpful, yeah. The
Yeah,
thing about a turn 1 Nami is it means that for the rest of the game, every time your opponent does something, they're gonna if they defend your stuff, they're gonna lose one more card out of their hand than they would have. And that's a huge
yep.
amount of incremental value throughout the game. That stacks up so much.
Yeah, I honestly think Nami is a staple. It's like the most important card, honestly, in my opinion, in the deck. I think we've had a question before. I don't think Max agreed with me last time we talked about
No,
it.
I definitely disagree. It is I would
Yeah.
I would argue it's like the 8th most important card in the deck.
When I play it, I've been playing a lot of red lately too. Nami's just it makes the world of a difference.
Yeah.
Um, like I honestly mulligan for Nami every time. Like
Yeah, see,
it's so important.
I could never in a million years mulligan that way a hand with like 2 rush pieces for a Nami. Like
Well, I mean, it depends on the rush pieces in my mind.
I
But
I'll take 2 Sanjis. I don't care. Like
oh, now that's you lose me. I
no,
don't
see,
know. Um,
I'd rather Brook in hand. I'd rather Luffy's in hand. I'd rather
you're
Sanji's in hand.
wild.
Like
I think Nami's
Diablo
so good.
Jambe wins me so many games. Like
And I'm also gonna go tell you where in my experience, guys, where I also got this opinion because I'm not gonna take 100% credit for this.
mhm.
It's I'm gonna give him a really quick shout out. I can't remember. I think it's Black King. He was part of a 30-man online Discord webcam tournament, and you got first place finish with Red Luffy, and he was if you can find the VOD, it's somewhere, but it in our Twitch channel. But
And he had he was really I
he
remember that. He was touting the
yeah
4 Namis.
yeah he was like Nami's the best card in the deck. Yeah, mulligan for Nami. Nami is the most important thing. And ever since then, I was like, man, is he just right? And I was testing. It's like, man, he's just right. Like it's so important. Um,
Well,
so
let's talk about some
I'll give him
alternate card
credit for this.
options here.
Yeah,
So obviously we went over the duck. If you
yeah,
want to cut Zoros, honestly, if you want to cut all 4 Zoros for 4 ducks, I don't blame you because duck is also an early aggro piece, and I've used it as such many times, and that's
yeah.
completely fine. The thing about that though is outside of duck, I don't really like any of the other cards you can choose. And I'm going to go over all of them and go over why, because I feel like there's a lot of traps in red that
Yeah.
I want to try and avoid people falling into. So starting
Now
with
the
Usopp,
Sure. Yeah, let's start with Usopp. Usopp's a
Usopp's
very
yeah, Usopp's not a bad place to start. So first of all, its
yeah.
unblockable effect is very irrelevant. Like it's not completely irrelevant, but God, is it just not that helpful at all? I mean, truly.
Yeah.
Oh, it stops 3, 4 blockers in the format, and every deck is running all the cheap blockers. And the thing about Usopp is, yes, it can get played off life, but a 3 Dawn commitment before it can even attack once, it's just too much. If it were a 2-drop 3K, it's there. You're there, right? But
Yeah.
2K is just not enough power. And
So easy to get rid
if
of.
you're gonna cut something for a card with a counter stat, just use the duck. Because I'd
Yeah, at
honestly
that point
rather a 1-drop 3K.
yeah, me too. I don't think getting past those blockers is the most relevant thing in the world,
Yeah.
especially with tech limit battles. And
Yep.
I don't think it ever gets better. Like if it's not relevant now, it's never gonna be relevant.
Yeah. In terms of Jinbei, I've heard the argument of cutting Zoro for Jinbei, and it's not terrible because Jinbei I actually like more during your turn. The thing about
Yeah,
cutting Zoro for Jinbei is number one, you can't run Jinbei over anything else in the deck. Every other card with no counter stat, you need more than the Jinbei.
I agree.
And Zoro is better into green because green's whole shtick is it's going to try and swing into that Zoro most of the time, and it's 6K. So realistically, it's a mostly indifferent choice, but I think Zoro edges it out. And you
Yeah.
can't afford to run another card without a counter stat. So there's Jinbei. And on the exact same line of thought, we'll talk about the Thousand Sunny real quick. If you see Thousand Sunny literally immediately, right? Like
Turn like one.
if your turn one is Duck, and then your turn two is like Thousand Sunny, put 2 Dawn onto Duck and swing with Duck and leader, sure. That's great.
That's cool.
That's a, yeah, dream scenario, right? And then let me tell you what's gonna happen. 9 games out of 10, you're gonna draw Sunny on like turn 5, turn 6, turn 7, turn 8, and it's gonna be suck ass. You're gonna hate it.
Yeah,
You're gonna be
for
mad that you
sure.
ran it at any amount. And if you're not running it at least 2, then you're never gonna see it early, and it's not helpful. But then if you're running it at 2 or more, you're gonna draw it late and want death. So I really feel like Sunny's a trap. Please don't
Yeah.
fall into this trap, at least in this
Sunny's
format.
not great. Yeah, I think Sunny is like the worst red card, if not one of the worst cards in the game.
Uh,
It's one of them.
I mean, I like Sunny more than Usopp. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Usopp's worse. You're probably right.
But anyway, so that's it for red. We'll move on here to green.
Oh, before we
Yes.
move on, there is one thing I definitely want on stipulation.
Okay.
Um, my list, I run only 3 of the promo Luffy and 3. I run 3 Diallo Jambe, right? So, I know a lot of people who are gonna say, "Oh, I don't have access to 4 Luffys." I
Diablo
think
Jambe is not a bad cut there.
yeah, Diallo Jambe is I think a good alternative option, but I think if you don't have access to 3 Luffys, I don't even think you play red. Um,
If you
I
don't have
think
access to at least 3, you don't play red for sure.
yeah, I think
I
if you need
personally,
them
instead of adding in Diablo Jambes, I usually add in ducks.
yeah,
But
Ducks there is also pretty decent.
that's fine. The big thing is you need at least 3. Realistically, you want 4 of this promo Luffy, or you should
Yeah.
not be playing red.
I if I had the ability to run 4, I would run 4. I just only own 3 as of right now, and I don't necessarily super care about getting a 4th this very second.
Yeah,
So in that one slot is just Jambe Jambe, and the fact you can't draw Diallo Jambe with an effect like Nami Searcher from set 1, there isn't really a draw engine in red right now in
right.
Limit Duck battles. So hitting your Jambes is important for closing
Oh
out
yeah,
late
it's how you
game.
close out the game.
Yeah, so I mean, I like running it at 3 just you can hit it and close out game consistently with it. So that's the only other stipulation.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah,
All right, let's talk about green. So
green.
green is the one that we're going to talk the most about, most likely, because the choices are so wild. I'll read our list aloud,
Yep.
and that's Kid, 4 Beige, 4 Bonnie, 4 Erouge, 4 Apu, 2 Killer, 4 X-Drake, 4 Kobe, 4 5-drop Law, 4 Basil Hawkins, 4 of the Kid blocker, the 7-drop starter deck Kid, 4 Scalpel, 4 Repel, and 4 Straw Sword.
Yep.
Now, real quick, 4 Straw Sword is, I know it's bold, but believe me, your deck has no removal, and other than arguably killer, Straw Sword is really, really, really important, and I almost never see more than I want to use. I use it all the time. Don't be afraid to just use it very proactively.
Yep.
Um, in
I've
terms
seen
of,
games.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I've seen games end like on the turn where people just go, I double straw sword, and then I go double leader swing, and it's
Yeah,
done.
and that wins all the time
Yeah,
for
it's a
sure.
huge thing. So I really like straw sword at 4.
Yep. Um, in terms of for scalpel, for repel, for a poo, the big advantage to me of green is that you have more defense than any other deck. Don't be afraid to
Yep.
abuse that. Um, the green, in my opinion, is honestly kind of the worst of the four. I feel like it's either green or red. It's one of the two,
Yeah.
but I really struggle with green. One of the big things about green that can really flesh it out, though, is green has the highest ability to make it your own individual list. Like cutting some of
Yeah.
these cards for heat or veto for more early aggression is a super valid option. It's completely fine. And it gives you a lot of personalization so that your opponent isn't completely ready for what to expect. The only card I really caution against in the entirety of the green roster is the promo kid.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I hate
and
that card.
Beppo, like don't run Beppo, but the promo kid specifically is kind of a trap. It almost never hits. It's below curve. You'd rather run veto most of the time. And if you've
Yeah.
played a fair amount of green, you're most likely to know that, I think, at this point. But that
Yeah. I
other
think
other than that, make green your own. There's a lot of ways you
yeah.
can screw with the numbers.
There's so many ways to play the ratios. Like especially a really easy one I can just spot right now is we're running 2 killer right now.
Yeah,
I can easily see that go to 3 or 4, and you can mess around the slots by taking out
like a
almost
Kobe,
anything. You can take out Kobe is my immediate thought.
a
You
5-drop law wouldn't be
could
bad.
yeah, 5-shot law wouldn't be terrible. You could, in theory, take out a straw sword for the 3rd
Yeah,
killer. I wouldn't, but you
it's
could.
super
That's totally
viable though.
fine. Yeah, it's totally fine thing to do.
And I have
You
won a
can make an
few
argument.
events with kids, so I'm not trying. Like, if a kid's your option, don't be discouraged. It's
Yeah,
playable. It's winnable. Any of the four
it is
can
winnable.
do it.
Yeah,
Just
the
the
only thing
biggest
with
thing about kid, you have to flex your individuality, play to your play
yeah,
style.
I think the big thing with Kid also, the problem why we're not going to see a lot of it in deck limit battles and why it almost never tops is because the most popular deck in the limit battles is blue, and or if not tied with
Uh,
purple around there.
Purple does have a higher representation, but blue
Yeah,
and purple have an extremely high representation, and blue just like you were about to say, blue just dunks on this.
blue you all lose a blue. It's almost impossible to
It's
beat blue.
really hard to beat blue. It's
Yeah,
really hard to beat blue, and that's the biggest problem.
yeah, it's really
And
unfortunate.
people are like, but green is good into purple. Here's the thing. Green is fine into purple.
Yeah,
I wouldn't go as far to say good. The argument
no,
is that like if you start stacking 7-drop kids, Kaido can't remove them. I could say the
yep,
same about Doflamingo though, where it's like if I start stacking 7-drop Doflamingos, yeah, Kaido can't remove them. Every other
yeah,
card in the deck, Kaido can remove. So you need to hit your kids. Now, granted, you have the Bonnies to try and do so, but then you
hmm
need to spend turns using them. And having a 7K body on board that is an attacker and a blocker is a ton of tempo. But if you play two 7-drop kids over the course of the game, but your opponent plays two 9-drop Kaidos over the course of the game, I still wouldn't expect it to be in your favor. You know, like their big
yeah,
bodies are just as powerful as your big bodies. So you don't necessarily have a bad matchup into Kaido. As a matter of fact, green and red, their whole shtick is that even though they're really bad into blue, they're decent into Kaido. Um,
yeah.
but
And with a lot of representation of
yeah,
Kaido, you're just bound to do at least decent. And honestly,
exactly.
like 9 times out of 10, I tune into like streams of the Declared Battle tournaments, like the big ones, and I'm watching Green play. Like Green's just shows up all the time, and
Green
it does
has
very well with him.
barely less representation than blue. Red is easily
Yeah,
the least represented deck.
yeah. Green, and there's so much to say about. I have 8 2K counters in the form of Scalpel and a Poo, where
Yes.
no other deck has it, and I
And
can
then you
start
also
taking
have
on.
repel.
And we have Repel. Like there is something to say about that. Like it's not the worst. And
Yeah.
then you have the Rouges, which can potentially out aggress so many other
Arouge
decks.
is a really big early aggro piece. It's
Yeah, it's
incredibly
so good.
helpful.
And it's super
The
important in
big
a lot of your
another big
matchups.
draw of green is it's the most consistent of the four decks by far because almost every card in your deck is good. Like you can see in my list, I only run the
Yeah,
4-drop Kobe vanilla, whereas every other deck is forced to run a ton of vanillas because a lot of their cards with effects are kind of dead. That's not the case for green. Every card is completely viable, which makes your deck very consistent.
yeah. There's so many different ways to build green also because everything's good. Like, like there's not like I
And you
see a
have
card.
arguably the best leader effect in the game. So
Oh yeah, arguably, yeah, easily. Like I think it's so much easy deck diversity because it's not like we're red. You see Usopp and you see Ship, and it's like, well, these are just easy trash. Like this is like
Yeah.
I'm not running this. Green is like, oh man, do I run this? Like this is actually I can make the argument for it. Like it's super good. Um, and like I don't know, there's just so much things going for green that I really like. Um,
Yeah.
but
And it's also
the
a lot
fact
of
it's
fun.
oh yeah, it's so
Green
much
is like
fun.
I have so much more fun playing green than I do purple or red. I personally like blue the most, but
Yeah.
green is a ton of fun.
And you also like I'll say I'll be the first one to say in Super Pro Leagues I got first place with my with green because all I had to do was just dodge all the blue players. It's
Yeah,
easy
that
peasy.
happened.
It
Lucky
happened.
you,
So
you jerk.
yeah yeah Max gonna get first place because he's bad. Like
Wah wah. Big baby
um
Max sucks at fucking
so
One Piece. All right,
so
well,
to say that though, if you're playing in a tournament, with Kaido being so represented, there's a good chance you just might not hit against blue players. And not, I'm not saying that'll never happen, but I'm just
yeah,
saying there's a chance you can go pretty decently and be like not play a single blue
yeah,
player. Then it's just like purple, 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 green or something. I don't know.
red,
So the longer you're dodging all these blue players, the better you're just gonna come out as green because green is
absolutely.
not bad in any of these other
All right,
matchups.
we're gonna move along to blue now. We're getting a little short on time here. So with blue, this crocodile list. Now, this crocodile list, I think I have to imagine Anthony and I agree on. And crocodile is my baby. This is the list I've had the most success with.
Yeah,
I've won a lot of
I
smaller
couldn't.
events with this croc deck.
Yeah,
So
I couldn't think. I feel like it's
it's
so new.
4 Law, 4 Jinbei, 4 Boa Hancock, 4 Sentomaru, 4 Marshall D. Teach, 4 Edward Weevil, 4 Gecko Moria, 4 Draco Mihawk, 4 Pacifista, 2 Crocodile, 4 Doflamingo, 4 Love Beam, 4 Sables.
Yep.
The only
Yep.
real flex spot to me in croc lists, like this is the best, in my opinion. Like this is the standard where you get it. The flex
Yeah, I think
spot comes in the 5 drop croc. I know we've talked a lot about croc, so we don't need to like
yeah, we don't need to
labor it too
reiterate.
much, but we can talk about a few of the options, which to me, the real killer ones here are thrust pad cannon, the 4 drop croc blocker, and those are the big ones because you don't want buggy and you don't want the Kuma. And we've already explained why, in our opinion, the 5 drop croc is the best of those options.
Yeah, I mean, if someone put like a gun in my head and said, "Hey, find the most stapley skeleton croc list ever that is really really good," it's this.
Yeah,
Like everything I is there what you want. It has the boas you want, it has the laws you want, it has the Jinbeis, it has the teach, it has the tomorrow, it has everything. And then you have that one little flex spot, and I think it's the best flex. I think that's the best card you could have put it in there. So I really, really like this list. There's literally not a single thing I could change.
yeah,
Um, and I know Max. I know he talks about how much blue is his favorite deck in deck limit battles, but I've also seen Max play with this blue list multiple times. I played against him multiple times, and I really, really think that not only I'll toot your horn a little bit, Max. That Max is one of the best blue
Aw.
players that I know. But honestly, it's he just does so well in tournaments. He gets first place all the time with this exact list. So, um, I can't even name off the top of the head how many times. I think it's got at least two or three, right?
Oh, it's 5+. I've done a
Five
lot of
plus,
them.
yeah,
Yeah, I love
yeah,
this list. I mean, I've lost a few. I've lost two, with this
yeah.
list. But
But
when you've won
I
five
know,
plus and lost two, I don't
yeah,
mind.
it's
I
way
don't mind.
better.
I'll openly admit I've lost with it before. Oh no, like
Yeah, I mean, it's. But I'm also not even saying like, oh yeah, you topped with it. It's first place. Like
Mhm.
it's like
And
it's
of the two I lost, one of them was a top. So
yeah. It does. So no matter what, I think blue is one of the easy ways to go in the battles, and I
it's
think
well,
this
see,
is
easy.
solid.
That's a big thing. I want to retcon that real quick. Big thing
Sure,
about
sure.
blue is that it's hard. And it's really
Yeah,
easy to make one simple mistake that costs you the game, more so than any other deck. And the big thing about playing blue in deck limited battles, and I caution people against it, even though in my opinion it is technically barely the strongest of the 4 options. The thing
yeah,
about blue is that you're going to be going for 9 rounds in these big events, right? And I'm in this one of this upcoming Sunday. You're going to be going 9 rounds in a row, assuming you do well. And the mental fatigue that comes with playing the hardest of the decks, that also is the easiest to make one
yeah.
little misplay that costs you the entire game, is massive. It's huge. And that's a huge congrats to these people that come in first, to freaking Semper, to Bio Lizard, who come in first with this, because it really flexes above anything else above their skill in the game, right? Because a lot of these people are skilled. Like you don't go to a 512 man because you're bad, right? You go because you're skilled and you want to try and win. It
Yep.
flexes that 9 rounds in, if you win with blue, you played as optimally as possible every moment under intense pressure all day. And that's
With the
crazy.
hardest
With the
I
hardest
think it's
deck.
the easiest deck, yeah. When I said easy, I don't think this deck is easy by any means. I
Right.
think it's just like, "Oh, what deck do I play for limited battles?" This is, in my head, the easiest go like, "Okay, I'm picking this," and because I know
Oh,
it
see,
tops so
to me,
consistently. It's either this or purple.
it's
Purple, it's
purple.
this,
If you're
really.
questioning what to play for limited battles, your choice is purple.
Yeah.
If you want to play blue, your choice is blue. I never suggest blue to people. I suggest purple to people.
That's funny. I think, if you're my big advice in terms, and I know Max already said this, but I'm sure essentially reiterate. Um, if you are good with blue and you're really good with blue, you bring blue.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yes, absolutely.
I think that's the way. There's no other
If you
argument.
have the
Blue is
skill,
cheating.
you bring blue.
Yeah, and it's easy. If you want to play on easy mode and turn your brain off for a hot minute, and yes, there are some interactions and
Kaido definitely,
microtransactions
yeah, it
required.
definitely. We're not trying to shit on these Kaido players. Kaido still
No,
definitely takes skill. It's just that
Kaido does skill
every deck in the game takes skill. Kaido, in my
yeah,
opinion, takes the least of the 4 decks. And
easily.
winning these events as Kaido is still takes. It's still not going to be easy. Like you still have to be good at the
No,
game. You still need to know your deck in and outs. But
you know
you
interactions.
can't deny the difference between coming in first with a Kaido list and coming in first with a Crocodile list. It's just huge. We're in different
Yeah,
leagues, you know.
especially like after like 9 rounds of playing,
Yeah,
like it's just it is
it's
ridiculously
brutal.
hard. It's very draining too. So
Yeah,
for those who are, I feel like in terms of best of one, also, I think blue gets even better in best of one. Um, whereas in purple match, like if you're playing purple in best of one tournaments, I think it gets
gets
a
rough.
little bit wonky because if you miss your all of your ramp and you're just that unlucky, which can easily
It
happen with
happens,
Kaido.
especially 9
Yeah,
rounds. Like, you're gonna do it
especially
9
nine
rounds. You
rounds.
need to be able
Yeah,
to
you're
win without it
yeah,
once
that's
in
the thing
9
with Kaido.
rounds.
If you can play also like in my head, you'd bring Kaido one if you want to turn your brain on easy mode and whatever, all that stuff too. Yeah, if you hit everything you want, you're gonna almost always win.
Yep,
Um, unless you're playing against Mirror and they also hit everything. But the big skill with Kaido is showing off you can play Kaido without
without
hitting
Oni. Yeah.
Oni, without Jack.
And
Like
speaking of,
easy
Kaido,
clap.
we should get into our list here real quick,
Yeah,
which is
easy clap.
Kaido leader, 4 Black Maria, 4 Sheep's Head, 4 Who's Who, 4 Sasaki, 4 Jack, 4 Ulti, 2 Page 1, 4 Queen, 4 King, 4 Kaido, 4 Blast Breath, 4 Brachio Bomber, 4 Oni. And I know that me and Anthony, he's on
Yep.
3
I like
Brachio,
three.
3 Page 1. I like
Yep.
4 Brachio, but honestly, it's barely different.
Yeah, it isn't that big a deal. I mean, it really depends, like, how much you are getting clunked with Brachio, in my opinion. In my experience, I get clunked with this card a lot. But with three, I see it when I see it, and I
Yeah.
don't. If I don't see it, I have something better to do. So it shows up when it shows up. Four is fine. Three is fine in my opinion. I think the only big thing we should talk about in terms of what this list actually is different than most is only running two page one. Because I
A
honestly
lot of
think
lists run 4, yeah.
yeah, a lot of lists run four, but I think everything else is just so important. I
I
think
think everything
Sheep's
else
Head's
is better.
so important, and yeah, I think Force
In
Who's Who's
terms
so
of
important.
other
Or
card
Sasuke, or Jack.
options,
Yeah,
the biggest things I would suggest here, because I really like the skeleton of this list, would be
yeah,
page 1 could be cut for X-Drake. That's not terrible. I personally prefer page 1 than X-Drake, but X-Drake is absolutely fine. Another
yep,
thing I've heard before, and listen, it's not that it's not valid. Some people run the 7-drop Kaido promo because it's really good in the mirror match.
yeah.
Because it like the all these other 7 drops, it cannot be KO'd with Kaidos, right? By Kaidos or Brachios. So if you
Yep.
want to cut one Brachio Bomber and one Who's Who, or like one Brachio Bomber and one King, or like one Brachio Bomber, one Kaido, one Who's Who, some kind of combination of your already dead cards, none of your counter stats, but your already dead cards for the 7-drop Kaido, you can. I
Yeah,
personally,
it's
however, the big argument against it for me is that card is way, 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 way worse than a blue. You're making your blue
oh yeah,
matchup so notably worse, it's not worth it. It's better to just learn how to play into mirror, in my opinion, because you're gonna play into blue that day, and that card will suck into blue, and it might cost you the game. I've seen it happen
yep,
to people. I've
yep.
done it to
I
people.
love that card too. It was unfortunate because
Me
I think that
too.
card's
It's
cool, but
nifty. It's really
yeah,
interesting.
it's so into blue, it's so easy to just get removed, and it's like now you it's like, oh, I just wasted an entire turn to do nothing. And if you're using the effect on -2 and you're not hitting, which is
Yeah.
also very plausible, that can get kind of annoying really quick, especially because Kaido is so Dawn reliant and stuff like that. Where you need to be very careful when you use your Dawn minus, because yes, you do your Dawn -2, but now you can't use your leader effect, or maybe you can't play your Kaido 9 drop or something like that, or maybe now you can't play King, and like it's because now you won't have enough Dawn the next turn. It's all about resource management with Kaido in turn of Dawn, and I think that card is very counterintuitive to that as well. Not that that's necessarily a bad card, but with Bulu being so popular, I think it gets kind of
Mhm.
meh. Um, I also think this page one could be X Drake. It's totally fine.
Yeah,
And
completely
I
up to
I
you. Personal
personally think
flavor.
it's I like the page one
Me too.
because I as much as we were talking how much ulti page one combo is really not that great, and you really don't want to do it unless you really have to. There will be a situation like one out of like 20 games
Where
where
you
it's like
have to.
you have to, and it won you the game.
I also
You
just
could
like a 4-drop 6K body, honestly. I like it more than a 3-drop
yeah
5K body, especially in Kaido, because your big
yep
having bigger bodies is more important to me.
yep. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think you'd be very careful with your page ones because if you're playing at your turn two, um,
Yeah.
then they play king, they get rid of it and stuff, and it's whatever. And
Well, if
that's
you're playing
unfortunate.
page 1 on turn 2, you're already not playing Oni, and then, I mean,
Yeah, you're already
then
losing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're behind
Yeah.
already.
Well,
So
we are getting
that's
to
the
the
thing.
end of our time here. We had a great time today, everybody, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys coming in, listening to us, and always support our content. And nothing feels better than talking about One Piece with you guys.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.